Welcome back, everybody. Of course, by that I mean it's good to be back. You see, the irony of this video is that in the last video, which was like 6 weeks ago, it was titled "Consistency is King." Let me tell you who wasn't consistent. This guy. At least with posting videos, posting content. So I guess an apology is in order. It was just one of those things where I sort of fell into a funk. I fell out of creating content, fell out of posting content. I was hung up with those final weeks of last man standing and dealing with my injury and wondering, am I going to get to the starting line in one piece, and a whole mess of stuff and work and this and that, and really just life, right? And so that really didn't limit me. I didn't make the time to make content. And because I didn't make any content, there was nothing to edit and post. So here we are. 1 week, a little over 1 week removed from last man standing. And I'm gonna take these off because those keep sliding. We're walking down to the other end of the farm for a workout. So, let me give you a brief, well, it won't be brief, let's be honest, I'm long-winded. Let me give you a rundown on, I guess, the lead up, since last video, the lead up to last man standing, the race, post-race, thoughts, all of that. I'm going to try to do this all in one go. But I'll likely hate parts of this and end up editing it out. We will see. But the goal is all in one go. So, let's dive in. I started to get right hip pain when my foot would touch the ground and I would start to take weight through the leg. And that started, golly, at least 4 weeks before the race. Maybe, I think it was even before the last video I posted. And that was naturally very concerning. It wasn't true hip flexor. It was a little bit more out to the side. Sort of like TFL area. And it would get to the point where I actually couldn't really even bear any weight through the leg, and had a significant hobble. Again, in a race where your goal is to go for hours and hours and hours on end, not running fast, but time on feet, that's a lot of steps, that's a lot of pounding. And I couldn't even tolerate walking a couple of feet. I was pretty worried. So, started rehabbing myself. I did the best self-exam that I could Obviously, there's only so much that you can do on yourself. From what I was able to gather, I didn't, at least initially, think it was coming from my back because it wasn't reproduced with any sort of back movements. And I didn't have any noticeable back pain. Now, I'll say that in the sense that I also couldn't see how my back was moving. Range of motion didn't feel restricted. But come to find out, it was limited, it was restricted, and basically the right side of my lower back wasn't tolerating any sort of compression, and so that was creating referred pain down into the hip. So not something that I could visualize on myself, needed external eyes. So this is a shameless plug in consult your local PT. Thankfully, I am a PT. Thankfully, I work in a PT clinic, and I was able to get eyes on me and get some treatment started. When originally addressing the issue, glute activation exercises helped a lot. So I incorporated those. I did some very focused core work. I got worked on by people at work, which was very nice of them to do that for me. Hurt like hell, but it helped a lot. And the episodes of hip pain diminished. My movement normalized, but so as not to exacerbate it, I really pulled back on running and incorporated a lot of cross training. So I spent a lot of time on the bike. I toyed around with heat training. So I got a sauna suit, which is really just one of those like emergency reflective blankets sewn into like a sweatsuit. And I would ride my bike. I have a Zwift Smart Trainer, so I would ride indoors with my sauna suit on to simulate aerobic load. Not even simulate, it would be an aerobic load on the cardiovascular system, to try to maintain fitness. Now, in the 6 weeks or so leading into Last Man Standing, the longest run I was able to complete was about, I think it was about 13 miles, 12, 13 miles. So a decent run, a bit longer than like a normal daily run would have been at that stage of training, but not nearly long enough or consistent enough for the time on feet demands of a backyard ultra style race. So that ultimately nipped me in the butt come race day. I came in as good of shape cardiovascularly as I could. Nutrition and hydration were pretty dialed in. What ended up failing me was muscular fatigue, actually, in my legs, which I think part of that can actually be circled back onto the nutrition side of things, interestingly enough. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So the race was Saturday, August 30th, up in New Gloucester, Maine, at Pineland Farms, which is this beautiful expanse of nature. I think it's a nature preserve or a park. They host events there. Obviously, we were at an event there, but I think they do some educational stuff there as well. Really, really lovely area. The way a backyard ultra works, for those of you who aren't aware, is every hour on the hour you go out and you run it's technically a 4.16 repeated mile loop. Most default to 4.2 because that's way easier to measure out. This particular course is known to be a little bit longer. When I did it last year, it was something on the order of 4.4 miles per loop. This year they cut it down a little bit, and they mentioned that. I was getting usually between about 4.35. Well, hey. Per loop. So again, still long, but not ridiculous. And so you run this loop every hour on the hour, and whatever time you have left in the hour when you get back is yours to do with how you desire. So usually you want to sit down, rest the legs, eat, drink, top off whatever it is that you won't go out on the course with, manage any issues that popped up during that loop, change clothes, reapply any sort of like anti-chafing cream. Pretty much anything and everything is fair game during that remaining time. So say you run a 50-minute loop, which is right on where I was trying to aim for. 50 minutes, that gives you 10 minutes to handle your business. Go to the bathroom, eat, drink, etc. Shut your eyes for a little bit. So I was aiming for about 50 minutes. That seems to be the sweet spot where no individual lap is excessively fast. It's the culmination, the aggregate, the sum of the fatigue that gets you. So the 50 minutes was a really casual pace. That is something on the order of like 11:30. Although admittedly probably a little bit quicker because of the slightly longer loop. But it gives you plenty of time to still recover and get anything and everything you could potentially need handled for going out for one more lap. And so last year I had this low back left leg nerve issue that ultimately caused me to pull out after I did my 9th lap, my 9th hour, 36 and change miles, but GPS actually I had right around 40. So number one goal was to beat that, because that really, really bothered me. And the irony is that I came into this with a different low back injury. I think you're sensing a theme here. And a lot of it boils down to I am really bad at following my own advice and applying my knowledge base to my own training, which is something that I am addressing for next year. So number one goal was to beat last year because that really sucked. I felt, well, my original goal coming into the race was 24 hours, which is about 100 miles. I think aerobically that is well within my wheelhouse. The question is, could my body hold up for 24 hours? With the injury and the relative lack of time on feet training, that goal needed to be adjusted. And so a more realistic goal was closer to 100K, which is 62 miles, 62 and change. But I was still gonna give it my all to try and last as long as possible. Overall, felt really good, actually. I was in a good headspace. I was determined. I had a solid nutrition and hydration plan. And things were going well until they didn't. The first issue I had was I was getting very full. Like, I wasn't emptying my stomach during the full hour, which made it difficult to get fluids down and get nutrition and calories, carbs. I was gunning for about 80 carbs an hour. And that was really challenging with the volume of fluid that I was taking in, because I was taking in, it was 550 milliliters of fluid per hour in a soft flask that I was running with. And in that had 60 grams of carbohydrates. And then I had a gel, which was 24 grams of carbohydrates. And the stomach was just really, really full, and almost like there was a backlog. And so there were a couple laps there where I went out with four gels per loop with a smaller soft flask, with electrolytes in that. That helped a little bit. Going for more concentrated carb source with the gels and just sipping on the water. I did that for a couple of hours, 2 or 3 loops, and that seemed to help. Stomach settled, didn't feel as full, and then more or less from there on out, I never dealt with that sensation again. That was probably 4 or 5 p.m. Then what I started to notice was I kept having to use the bathroom to poop. I'll be honest. Everyone does it. Had to poop between each lap. That sort of coincided with the fullness. And then when the fullness subsided, probably around 6 p.m., I had a pickle. And the pickle I had a little, just the tiniest, I don't even want to say spice. I think honestly it was like some of the bite from garlic. You know, garlic's got that bite. I think some of that was in the brine with the pickle upset my stomach a bit, because then my gut was just kind of, I don't want to say wrecked, but like clockwork, with about 2 miles left for the remainder of the race, that I did at least. I would have to poop, go to the bathroom, and it would dissipate a bit. I would be able to run it out, but still very uncomfortable to try to run through. And some laps I would get back, and I would still have to go to the bathroom, and so I would. And then one lap I didn't, but I still tried, and it was fine. Ended up just being some gas. And then we got to the night, and this continued, but it started to get worse. And it would start to occur sooner, until the 1 a.m. lap, the 13th hour, when it hit pretty much like 3 miles in. And mind you, the lap before that, the midnight lap, I was struggling with the leg fatigue. Aerobically, fine. Heart rate was in like the 1 teens. I just couldn't get my legs to turn over any faster than what they were moving at. And I think I know the reason why, and we'll get to that later. But I got back with like 2.5 minutes left, and I'm gonna be completely honest. I was very uncomfortable. My legs hurt. I was tired. I was starting to get cold because I couldn't move quickly. So the sweating that I was doing was cooling me off, and it was starting to get, I think at that point it was into the low 50s at that point. But I told myself that I did not want to quit in the chair. I wanted to fail out on the course. I did not want to quit and be done in the chair. So between that and Casey being an amazing crew chief, she was absolutely incredible. She met me right at the finish line, sat me down at the picnic table right there so I didn't have to go back to camp. Had anything and everything I could have needed. Gave me a really good pep talk. reminded me that those night laps, middle of the night laps, were the hardest, but that I was capable of doing it because I had done it before. And that I just needed to make it to morning, and it would be a new day, and it would be a big morale boost. So I went out on the 1 a.m. 13th loop, at that point surpassing the 50-mile mark. That was done at 11 p.m. So the midnight was 54 miles. This was going to be 58 per course numbers, that is. 1 mile into that last lap, I had to go to the bathroom. So I did. It was uncomfortable. There's switchbacks on the course, so I had my headlamp on in the dark. Probably the most vulnerable I've ever felt in my life from just like a primal exposure standpoint. And trudged on. As you could imagine, that was a very uncomfortable rest of that loop. I wish I had the foresight to have asked for some sort of a wipe, napkins, towel, something, because, you know, that part was rough. Just, you know, I pooped and I didn't have toilet paper. I had nothing to wipe with. So I pulled the shorts back up, headlamp back on, and off I went to finish the loop as best I could. It was probably with about a mile left that I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it. My legs just weren't moving fast enough. Again, aerobically, totally fine, in part because I wasn't moving fast, but it was very much a muscular endurance, leg fatigue limiting factor for me. I was DFL on that loop, dead fucking last. I missed the time cutoff by about 2 minutes, and my race was done. I completed successfully 13 hours, which was a little over 54 miles. I logged that 14th loop. I didn't officially complete it in time because I didn't make the cutoff, but that would have been 58 miles. My GPS had me that I moved. I walked. I moved 61 miles. So 61 miles. It was, I think, 6,100 feet of vert. It was like 430 feet of climb per loop. And that was my day. That was my night. Waylon sees something. At that point, all of our spectators had left, so it was just Casey and I. So at that point, I was really cold. I don't remember much from the remainder of that night until we got back. But I laid down in like one of those zero gravity chairs, which in hindsight is a move for next year, is getting one of those. I just had like a pop-up camping chair, but next year I'm gonna have one of those zero gravity chairs so I can prop my feet up, which, spoiler alert, already signed up for next year. It opened up 1 p.m. Or I'm sorry, 11? 1? There's a 1 somewhere in there on the Sunday. I think 1 p.m. the next day, anyway, in any event that it started, and registered again. We're in. I've already rewritten my training program for next year. It's going to be challenging. It's going to require probably more devotion, more time, more commitment than any other training block I've ever put in. But a lot of people sacrifice a lot of time and energy, other than me, for this event, and I need to do more. An unexpected injury popped up, and I did the best I could with what I had, but I'm capable of more. I learned a lot from this event. The past 2 years of doing it, I've learned a lot, like a lot. And I'm actually really looking forward to starting that training block. But I'll talk about that realistically next year when I start it, because right now we're sort of in off season. But in any event, I passed out in that chair. I was naked aside from my skivvies. I was bundled up in like 3 blankets, and Casey said I was still shivering, like convulsing, while she packed up camp, because the expectation was to go through the night and into the next day. And I gave it everything I had. It just wasn't enough. So she packed up. She said it took about an hour. Every now and then I heard voices, but I was very much useless. And then she helped walk me back to the car. And we got home. We got back to her mom's house. And made it up the stairs, 2 flights of stairs. And showered. Very sketchy shower. And went to bed. And I pretty much slept that whole day. I woke up around, I think, 8, and I was hurting, as you would expect. I was up for a couple hours, and then I went down for a nap for a couple of hours, and then I was up for a couple of hours. We ate, and then went to bed. So that's pretty much my last man standing experience. It was positive. It was an improvement on last year. I am, despite maybe my tone, I am proud of the effort I put forth. I think I made the most of less than ideal circumstances, And I think I got the most out of my body on that day. Another day, could I have gone further? Maybe. On another day, could I not have gone that far? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm proud of the effort I put forth. However, I don't feel done. I don't feel satisfied. I know that there is a lot more that I am capable of in this style event. And I want to see what that is. So our name is back in the hat for next year. One interesting finding from the event is that I was soaked in sweat by like the 6-hour mark. And so I changed. I did like a poor man's shower. And somebody took those clothes and just like threw them in a trash bag just to keep them separate. I didn't know where they had gone, but when we got back home on Wednesday and I was unpacking all my stuff and I found them and I opened up the bag and I was just, it was like somebody literally punched me in the face with the smell of ammonia. And in the moment when I was running, I couldn't smell myself. You're sort of nose blind to yourself. I knew I had to have stunk just from past experience, and obviously I had just been running for 6 hours or whatever it was. And Casey told me and others told me, yeah, you stink. This is what it is. But I didn't know that I smelled like that. What that tells me is that my body was not getting enough carbohydrate. And so it was breaking down protein as a form of energy, which is abnormal for that intensity of that duration. I wouldn't expect that to be the case. But a byproduct of protein metabolism is urea and an ammonia smell. Or at least according to ChatGPT, when I looked that up afterwards, because that was new. I've never had that before. And so, despite what I thought had been a higher carb, sufficient fuel training plan, especially considering how full I felt, although in hindsight now I think that may have just been a fluid content. I think I got to take in more carbs in a more concentrated fashion. So, I don't know, is that 90 grams of carbs in a soft flask in the same volume of fluid? Is it 120? Is it, I don't know. That's going to take some time teasing out. But I've got time on my side. So, a little over a week removed. Legs are feeling good. I haven't run. I am, for a couple reasons, taking a step back from running to mentally take a break from the toll of training and the race, and just sort of setting the mind. From a rebuild standpoint, from my body, I'm doing a lot of strength and core and PT and mobility work to rebuild what was quote unquote broken, regain some athleticism, which has been a lot of fun actually. The training block I'm on now from we'll call it a strength phase, has been really challenging from a neuromotor coordination standpoint. What one might consider weird or abnormal movements. But it's been good. So like I was saying, the primary focus right now has been on shifting more back into the weight room. I'm in my first week of this training program, which again, it's sort of a mix of hypertrophy, total body, athletic explosive power development, motor planning, coordination, like training, which has been both fun, challenging, rewarding, humbling, all in one. And I'm gonna follow this at least until we go to Egypt in October, because I got nothing to train for right now, and I want my body to be functioning optimally, and I want to feel good, put on a little bit of muscle, mess around a little bit with body composition. So part of that will be a bit of a lean out, which overall I think will help with the top priority for training for next year's events. So that's the update. That's the status report, the after action report of Last Man Standing, and sort of how the past several weeks have gone. I think that was a bobcat. We've seen a bobcat around here, and I think that was it. It didn't look like a coyote. But I hope to film content a little bit more consistently, and start posting in a regular cycle again. So look for those coming. I'm going to edit this video this week and hope to get it out probably Wednesday or Thursday. Scratch that. Probably for next Monday. But thank you for bearing with me, guys. I apologize again for the radio silence, lack of content, but we're back, we're moving forward, we're evolving, we're learning, and we're pushing on. So thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate it. I really do. Please like, comment, subscribe if you don't already. and I look forward to posting more videos, more training videos, more life. I got some travel content coming up with our trip to Egypt in October. And yeah, looking forward to bringing you guys along for the ride. So, till the next video, see you guys.